So good afternoon, everyone. This is hopefully, again, an exciting panel that you're attending at the Quantum World Congress. I know everyone is busy, so we'll make this fun and exciting. As Karen mentioned, I'm Ona Ambrozaite, co-director of the Johns Hopkins Science Diplomacy Hub, and it's really nice to actually have this panel dedicated to our younger students who are starting their careers in quantum, thinking about quantum. This is what it will be about, how these beautiful ladies are doing amazing jobs even when they're so young, and I think it's inspiring to see at this age that you're able to do all you do. So Srimaye is just starting her undergrad, right? And you're already working with students grades 6 through 12, right? So we'll talk about that. And then Jade is already established in her undergrad and has created a lot of educational resources, right? So we'll hear also about that. So we'll start with Srimaye, okay? You've been working with the younger students to introduce them to the fundamentals of the quantum physics, let's say, right? So what have you seen as the most effective strategies to educate students and then foster this continued investment, per se, in this field from the younger generations?
Thank you. Yeah, sure. So I think the most obvious and the best way to introduce quantum physics to especially younger students is more conceptually rather than through math, obviously. And one of the ways that I like to sustain this interest is through games and activities as well. So my organization, Physaurus, focuses mostly on middle and high school age students, and I found that this approach has been working for me. So for example, when I introduced this concept like quantum, like the measurement problem of quantum physics, for example, I like to use this game called Bean Boozled. So if you're not familiar with what that is, it's basically a game that consists of multiple jelly beans, and each of these different colored jelly beans have one or two possible flavors that they can be. So for example, a blue jelly bean could either be blueberry or toothpaste flavored. And the idea is that until you measure the state of the bean by tasting it, so to speak, you wouldn't really know the state. And that kind of corresponds to these quantum ideas. And I think that using these activities and analogies has been like really helpful to solidify those in like young minds. However, I have encountered some nuances with this. So obviously there are some nuances in the topics of quantum mechanics, and I think that some other people who are also working to address this issue have challenges kind of capturing that nuance. So I would say like to that end, capturing the nuance while also like engaging students with these activities has been the best approach in my opinion.
So maybe we can do a jelly bean tasting at some point here to do this active measurement, right, and show quantum in real life. So I like that idea, actually. Okay, now we'll move on to Jade, who's, again, not, in the previous stages of high school, now undergraduate. So you've created, again, educational resources in this field. So there's plenty of college students around there who have plenty of interests, and it's hard, right, to capture their interest in something that's so mysterious as quantum. So how have you done it?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jade, and I'll do a little background on myself to lay the backstory of why I'm doing this as well. So I learned about quantum science first when I was in high school from an online quantum computing course, and it captured my imagination. I was blown away by the field. I saw that schools like MIT, Yale, and Stanford had quantum computing clubs, and I was enrolled at the University of Maryland, and I saw that UMD has so many quantum centers, so many great resources. Why doesn't UMD have students kind of galvanized around these resources? So I decided to start a club called the Undergraduate Quantum Association for that purpose, to provide professional opportunities to these undergraduates and help them learn about quantum science and make them more aware of what career paths they could possibly have. I also study physics and math, and I'm graduating in the spring. So through running my club, I found that, well, let me start by saying what we offer. Our professional opportunities include career fairs. So we actually have one coming up tomorrow. This is something that we ran last year as well. We run a quantum hackathon in the spring. We do lab tours of local campus labs as well as IonQ, because it's a local company, a company that came out of the University of Maryland. And we also bring in speakers from professor faculty at UMD, as well as company representatives. I think the one resource that we've seen the most students come out of is our hackathons. So we'll have students who have no prior experience in quantum computing or quantum science start the 48-hour hackathon, and by the end of the weekend, they are also fascinated by the subject. Beginners with no prior knowledge of superposition or qubits go through a series of challenge notebooks, and suddenly they want to learn more. We've had about 2 or 3 students in the past 3 years that we've run this hackathon come out, and afterwards they want to learn more, and they've published papers now. And I think that's one of the most rewarding things to see, is that we're connecting students with research and helping them, connecting them with opportunities for their futures.
Thank you, Jade. And I think we're a small enough group so that at the end I will leave some questions, and people can come up later to the microphone so we hear you, just to make it more interactive here. So watch out for those. Now let's talk about accessibility with regards to educational materials. So I am from quantum materials side of things, I'm finishing my PhD there, Johns Hopkins, and having a great time now, but before, when it was still very much early on, and there's a lack of that easy to understand material, right, that people can access. So Srimaye, from your perspective, how have you been tackling this challenge of this accessibility, this easy to understand material, and how can we help?
So for me, I went to a specialized science and tech high school, so I myself was luckily and fortunate enough to be presented with these opportunities. So for example, I was able to take classes in high school like organic chemistry and electrodynamics. We had a quantum lab in our school and all sorts of clubs and things like that, which currently a lot of other schools, to my knowledge, are not offering. And so because of this, I really wanted to tackle this challenge head on and try to disseminate some of this knowledge that I have gained to other students, both locally and around the world, who might have the same affinity for the subject that I do, who just might not have access to as many resources that I do. So I think that having a centralized online hub for articles or video lectures can be really helpful, but also maintaining that interest through in-person events, like Jade mentioned that she carries on these hackathons and career fairs, things like that, as well as in-person lectures and classes, has been really a great way to garner interest for students in the area. And I think that definitely ways to help would be through outreach to various schools, and ultimately the goal is for schools themselves to encourage these opportunities to students and maybe run their own courses or clubs for students to have a much more easier accessibility to these resources.
Okay, thank you. And that actually goes right into our next question for Jade. When you learn, let's say, what is quantum, you understand more of it, and you think about careers now. So, Jade, from your now perspective at your university, there's a lot of interest, again, from college students. So what are they thinking about these quantum or quantum-adjacent careers, and what are these students most interested in these days?
In our student body, we see students from many majors: computer science, physics, maths, engineering, and then even from other fields of science like biology, chemistry, and even some business majors who are interested in getting involved in the ecosystem. I would say of the STEM-focusing students, 40% of them would like to go straight into industry, and 60% of them, roughly, would like to continue into academia and go for higher education. I think one challenge that we faced over the past 3 years is finding speakers that cater to everyone's interest. CS students might be more interested in the algorithm side, the quantum software, whereas engineers might be more interested in how hardware platforms are created. I think what brings people together is a hackathon that includes a workshop on hardware, and then also touring IonQ and seeing the computers, but having them talk about the applications of their software. So we've been able to have events that are able to cater to, I think, everyone's interests, and we're always looking for new ways to engage students. So if anyone in the audience is interested in partnering or having an event, a workshop with us, do let me know. I'm also interested, are we going to talk about your work with the Science Diplomacy Hub? I'd love to hear about that.
We plan to. We had a shift in our schedule because Sabina here cannot talk. So yes, I'm happy to share more about the Science Diplomacy Hub work that we do. I can comment that we work a lot with different embassies, different international organizations to increase sort of awareness now about the lack of, especially workforce, in the quantum information science and technology system. So, for example, we did a very interesting event in February. So that's with the Embassy of Finland and Switzerland, APS, SPIE organizations, where we tackled the topic of narrowing the quantum divide. And we addressed this topic through having people, for example, from APS speak about, what are they doing? For example, I'm sure you know Colorado, University of Colorado Boulder is doing great with their programs and faculty that actually focus on this, gap that exists right now. So we work with diplomats, policymakers, students. That's important. Then we work with academics and private sector as well to make sure that everyone is on the same page and understands, okay, why is this important? For example, there's a lot of hype in quantum right now, but everyone knows, I think, at this conference that workforce is something we all worry about. So that's why I think it was important for us to have you both here specifically to actually talk to the people who will be, right, the leaders. So that's from my side. And before we turn to the audience, I'd really like to engage them. So what's one thing you wish you had when you were pursuing quantum first? What are you thinking of next, right? As we know, for example, Jade is coming to her stages, the next step. And so what are you thinking, and what resources, what help would you say would be needed for your respective sectors?
So I would say, before I took all of these advanced classes in high school, I was mostly self-teaching myself. And what would have been really helpful back then, which is what I'm actually working to address right now, is to have that centralized area of information that explains the principles and applications of quantum physics, conceptually, but still more in a comprehensive way that doesn't totally water them down to the point that they're misleading. And I think that would have been really helpful for me when I was first starting out. Now I'm currently actually working on creating a hackathon for high school students specifically on quantum computing, and I think I want to long-term continue working with organizations, schools, and school districts specifically to continue creating a stream of resources for high school and middle school age students. And one thing that would be helpful for both short and long-term goals would be kind of support from all the different sectors, like Ona mentioned, all the different sectors that require these workforce development programs to keep themselves running, as well as all their perspectives on the issue at large and understanding that.
So up next for me will be a PhD in quantum science and probably in quantum physics. I really would like to become an expert in the subject. The root of my endeavors in starting the undergraduate quantum association was just a pure passion for the science. So that's where I'll be continuing. I don't think there's anything I wish I had when I started out. I learned about quantum science quite early on as a senior in high school, and Srimaye even earlier. So I think everything aligned really well for me to be able to have resources just in the first place to know about the topic. And I'm just really glad that I had the support of faculty and advisors at the University of Maryland to help me start the club and reach many more students. Moving forward, I guess resources that I need, I'm not quite sure right now. I would love the club to live on after me at the University of Maryland, so we're always looking for ways, like I said, to get involved with more people. And as I pursue my own scientific pursuits, I'm sure I will see many of you in the future. And I also just want to add a short story to the end to show that we are proof that learning about quantum science, learning about these hard topics is not reserved for just graduate level education. When I was tabling one time for my club at our first look fair, which is where all of the clubs at the university table, a graduate student walked up and said that he was so surprised that undergraduates could even understand this material. Why was I even here doing this? And I just told him, That's not true at all. There are many ways that undergraduates can get involved. There are many ways that high schoolers can get involved, that middle schoolers can. It's not about being an expert immediately or doing important work immediately. It's about pursuing what you like to do, what you love to do, and capturing people's, excitement for the topic. So.
I'll use both. No, I think we need to bring that graduate student here to the session. Yeah. Again, I'll leave time for people to ask questions. Again, this is a topic that we all talk about, but I think it's good not to just talk at you, but also with you. Let us know. You can raise your hand, and I can repeat the question as we go. So, what would you like to ask our next generation? Yeah. If you could, I think we hear you from here.
I have a brand new freshman I just dropped off in college. He wants to do Mackie, but except for Dad telling him to go look at quantum, what can I point him to?
What could you point his son to, right?
Yeah, my daughter's already looking at grad school.
Okay, good.
Sure. So I would say that there are many resources from lots of companies that are creating software development kits, and I like going on their websites and seeing the applications that they expect their technology to be used for, because they often have examples. So you can open up in a code notebook just simple ways to start running things on quantum hardware. So this can be IonQ, IBM, but the whole host of companies that put their platforms available on the cloud or something like that. They often have well-documented examples, and so I would recommend those examples for quantum specifically for him to go through. Those are great resources. Also, YouTube has many great videos on just getting into quantum physics, and then also examples gone through in video form.
Obviously, I have to do a shameless plug for my own organization, but other than that, I think when I was first starting out, definitely YouTube videos. There's lots of videos on like PBS, Space-Time, I think it's called, and Wikipedia is also a really useful resource just to like get started. I assume that if he's already in college, starting college, studying like mechanical engineering, he knows about like the basic math, like matrices and vectors and those things. So it's pretty easy to get started with like the basic math of quantum mechanics, like understanding operators and states and things like that. And there are lots of resources available online, like Wikipedia, like I said, and I'm sure there's lots of things you can look at just to like kind of apply the knowledge that he already knows to like what quantum states and those types of things are. So I think that would be really useful too.
And if you are a textbook reader, there are many textbooks on the subject that can introduce you to the subject. So if you'd like to just put your head in the book and start reading, I think there's always Nielsen and Chuang, which is the probably gold standard. Many people consider it to be. So.
Yeah, and I think, is that a sign that it's coming to the end? Right, and from my end, as I talk with a lot of non-experts, so you have to be able to translate this topic. So I would say learn how to explain quantum entanglement with the use of cats. So that has been really effective. So if you can, explain that in that terms, I think you'll be successful. So I think I'll wrap up here. Thank you, Jade, Srimaye, and our organizers here for, putting this together, and Karen also for introducing us. And this is not easy, we know. So thank you, and have fun with the rest of the conference.